We'll be starting in just a moment. We're letting people in from the waiting room. Still counting up, so we'll start in just a moment. For our attendees, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and who you're with if you would like to. Still counting up. Thank you. Excited to have everyone here. All right, Lisa, slides coming up, and I'll hand it off to you to get started. Please, if you've just joined though, continue to introduce yourself in the chat.
Great. Thanks, Maria. Thank you all for joining us today for the public launch of the Life Science Workforce Collaborative. I'm Lisa Bozinovich, Chair of the Collaborative and Executive Director of Oregon Bioscience Association. Some of you have already been working with us as early collaborators, and others are meeting us for the first time. But either way, we're really happy that you're here. Next slide. Today's launch is our opportunity to formally introduce the collaborative, who we are, what we're focused on, and how we're working to address the critical workforce needs in the life sciences. We'll also hear from Ryan Helwig of Techonomy Partners, who will walk us through key findings from our recently released Workforce Trends Report. And finally, we'll close with a quick overview of ways you can engage with us moving forward. We hope to have time at the end for Q&A, but please drop your questions in the chat as we go, and we'll do our best to answer throughout the presentation. Our hope is that you walk away with a better understanding of the collaborative, some of the opportunities ahead, and the potential value to your organization and to the work that you're all doing. Next slide. So why LSWC? Many of you are keenly aware that access to skilled talent is a leading concern of life science employers. And as you'll soon hear from Ryan, this is true whether we're in periods of slow or accelerated growth. Skill needs may change during periods of retraction, but they don't go away. And while there are many great workforce programs around the country, we know there are many more opportunities to collaborate, to learn from, and go after resources to support strong workforce partnerships. And we want to help to connect those dots nationally to amplify the local impact many of you are already having. Next slide. Here's a bit of our history and evolution, focusing primarily on our signature program. Some of you may be familiar with the Council of State Bioscience Associations, or CSBA, comprised of industry associations from 48 states and Puerto Rico who have been meeting for over 3 decades. CSBA is primarily focused on advocacy and member services. In 2012, a subset of those associations and institutes who specifically wanted to focus on industry-led workforce, STEM education, and entrepreneurship initiatives came together to form the Coalition of State Bioscience Institutes, or CSBI. At the time, 42 states and Puerto Rico signed on, and all but 2 of those had overlapping membership in the CSBA. And though we've collaborated on a number of STEM and entrepreneurship programs over the years, the chief focus of our largely voluntary coalition has been the biennial National Workforce Trends Report, which we've been producing since 2013. And since 2021 with Techonomy Partners, thanks to the generous support of Innovate Bio, an NSF-supported National Biotechnology Education Center. As workforce issues grew more prominent, while our industry member companies navigated intense growth, recession, COVID, post-COVID, competition for talent, shortages of skilled technicians, now tariffs, geopolitical uncertainties, and more, several of us decided it was time to formalize our coalition. LSWC was formed and granted 501c3 status in May of this year. Next slide. LSWC is research and data driven, with over a decade of experience in gathering robust data for the National Workforce Report and the state snapshots that accompany it. We also believe that talent development starts early and want to work to scale successful initiatives that attract and expose young students to the life sciences, provide meaningful engagement throughout their educational cycle, reach broadly to grow our talent base, and promote successful practices for hiring, advancing, and retaining employees. And finally, we think there are some exciting opportunities to forge, deepen, and optimally resource multi-state and multi-stakeholder partnerships across the country, precisely because of where we sit. Next slide. In just over 2 months, 50 state, regional, and national life science industry associations and institutes have joined LSWC at various levels, with more joining every week. Next slide. Next, I'd like to introduce Lori Lindberg. Lori is a co-founder of both CSBI and LSWC. In addition to various leadership roles, she's been the driving force and has co-led the production of the current and previous 6 national workforce trends reports. Lori is currently serving in a senior advisor role with LSWC and will briefly walk us through some of LSWC's current and upcoming programs. Next slide, Lori.
Thank you, Lisa. Beginning with our first and most well-known initiative, the Life Science Workforce Trends Report. I'm not going to spend much time on this, as you'll be hearing from Ryan Helwig shortly. Only to note that this year we had over 700 responses from industry executives and hiring managers from across the country and Puerto Rico, and a decent geographic spread. This was all complemented by data from 2.9 million job postings data from the last 4 years. Currently, there's no other report that is really looking at workforce across the full industry, across the full country. One of the things that the report is noted for is its so-called real-time data. Except for that job postings data, all the other data is collected within 6 months of production, which in a period of frequent macroeconomic shifts and geopolitical uncertainty like we're experiencing now, at least helps us get some sense of what life science employers are grappling with. Next slide, please. Another project we are planning to kick off this fall, and this is directly a request during our strategic planning period. This is a Best Workforce Strategies Roundtable series intended as exchanges on workforce issues that will allow participants to learn from each other and from other leaders in the space. We currently have these planned as quarterly. We hope to eventually offer them more frequently. These will be 1-hour virtual sessions and may be organized around compelling topics, subsectors, regions. We've listed a few ideas here. Our hope is that in addition to gaining insights on successful models and learning from industry leaders who are tackling workforce challenges, that these roundtables will provide opportunities for you to connect with peers and share ideas and explore some actionable solutions. Next slide. We're hoping to kick off the first roundtable with one of the experts from the National Security Commission on Emerging Biotechnology to highlight some of the workforce recommendations that came from their recent, really important report. I think many of you are familiar with this report. And then we hope to turn it over to hear from a few of the representatives that are specifically called out in the report from Nimble, BioMade, and Innovate Bio. So stay tuned. We hope to have this firmed up shortly. Next slide. We're also very excited to note that LSWC and Innovate Bio are part of a recent award from Nimble for a project led by Apprenti It will make it easier for companies and states to get biomanufacturing apprenticeship programs registered with the Department of Labor. And we're very fortunate today to have Carla Talanian, a consultant with Apprenti, here to briefly tell us what's in store. Carla?
Thanks, Lori. So I'm Carla Talanian. I'm representing Apprenti and their partnership with LSWC. We all know the U.S. needs a life sciences workforce. That's why we're all here, and that's why the work that LSWC does is so important. One way to grow the skilled technical workforce is through registered apprenticeships. And while there's a lot of interest in and enthusiasm for that model, registered apprenticeships are not easy to build and they're not easy to sustain. The other problem is, given the local nature of our apprenticeship system, it's really difficult to align education and training practices among different states. And this is where Apprenti comes in. As an affiliate of the Federal Department of Labor, Apprenti has a national mandate to build registered apprenticeships. They have 10 years experience building these programs for the high-tech industry. To date, they've trained over 6,000 apprentices who are now working at more than 350 different companies, and they operate in every single state. Partnering with LSWC and also with Innovate Bio, and partially funded by a grant from Nimble, we will be able to leverage this expertise to build national standards for registered apprenticeships in the life sciences that will help build and sustain the skilled technical workforce that we need.
Great. Thank you so much, Carla. We're really excited about this project.
We are too.
Finally, a few conference panels we are participating in, coming off of our launch at the June Bio International Convention, where we were interviewed about the workforce report, led a panel highlighting various state workforce initiatives. Next month, both Lisa and Maria will be presenting at the Apprenti National Conference. And in October, Lisa will join Innovate Bio's Linnea Fletcher at the NSF ATE PI conference. And later that month, LSWC will lead another workforce panel at the MedTech conference in San Diego. Next slide. Some of the other things we're considering that we currently lack resources to develop, but which we nevertheless wanted to pressure test with all of you, lest we build something and no one comes. One thought we've had that it would be valuable to have a community forum on our website where you all could post and respond to posts around various things like partnership or funding opportunities. Maybe you're looking to develop a specific type of workforce program and would like to connect with others who have done so. Perhaps you need a speaker for a conference or an event, or are looking for a contact at a particular company, for instance. Another thing we thought would be potentially helpful is a resources page listing organizations and resources available for various stakeholders with opportunities for outside submissions for inclusion. Again, both of these will take time and resources. And one of the things we hear about forums, for instance, is that they don't work unless people are actually posting on them. And resource pages, as you know, can quickly become obsolete if people aren't accessing them and making use of them. So before we get ahead of ourselves, we'd love to get a quick pulse from you. Maria's going to drop a quick poll in the chat to see whether you think these are things that we ought to be pursuing. We've also included some roundtable topics we'd love your input on. Unfortunately, Zoom doesn't allow for other suggestions or comments, but there will be other ways for collaborating organizations to propose topics and speakers that we can take up for consideration. So please take a few seconds to respond to the short poll, and if time, we'll share the results at the end of the webinar. Either way, this is going to be really helpful information for the LSWC program committee that we are forming that will be putting our programming together. So, next slide. And now it is our pleasure to turn this over to Ryan Helwig of Techonomy Partners to walk through some of the key findings from the 2025 Workforce Trends Report. Ryan?
Well, thank you, Lori, Lisa, Maria, Carla. Great to be with everybody. Just want to say that its economy appreciates this partnership with LSWC, the state and regional partners, so many of which are represented on this call and very important in this effort, and certainly our sponsor with Innovate Bio. So next slide, please. So this report represents, as you've heard, the 7th edition, and importantly, it provides an opportunity to take the pulse of demand dynamics, demand for talent, workforce, specific skill areas, and certain related themes. So over the years, been able to cover things like remote work, specific occupational skills, talent needs, expectations for hiring going forward. So things that are very challenging to get at from existing data and data sources. So what's created here is a really rich data set and set of intelligence that we're able to synthesize across a hiring survey, interviews with executives from across the country and from our different life sciences subsectors, those nearly 3 million unique job postings that Lori mentioned, and other data and intelligence. And I think what's so valuable and has been mentioned, though, is the timeliness of this information, how current it is, how we're able to pull together different insights from both the quantitative data as well as the qualitative inputs, and how important that is to painting a current picture on the demands for talent and the trends and themes that we're seeing across. If you go to the next slide. The report is structured typically around these themes and trends that we're identifying in each effort. And I'll put a plug in here for certainly reading the report, digging into this if you haven't already. Maybe today will pique your interest on a couple of these areas. You may want to dig in selectively, certainly. But I will also say that there's a lot of good information in terms of quotes and insights and sort of that qualitative component that really adds helpful color commentary. So to walk through the trends quickly, and then we'll unpack each of these. Certainly, the industry has been impacted by macroeconomic challenges, investment challenges, global economic uncertainties, and it's resulting in lower hiring volumes and slower employment growth. But certainly, that's a mixed picture. This is not a monolithic sector. This is one where we have different growth areas amidst some of that slower hiring context. It's certainly changing the focus of companies and workforce demand dynamics around strategic hiring, targeted cost reductions, certainly investments in upskilling, automation, and certainly at the same time, we're seeing a greater ease in filling key roles as there's been some loosening of the demand. In our second trend, industry executives are telling us overwhelmingly that there are technologies impacting the demand for talent dynamics, skill demands. Those are related to AI, machine learning, industrial automation, creating both disruptive opportunities, but also challenges. Our third trend, driven by increased employee retention, as well as ever-evolving technology integration, regulatory changes, is this need to upskill and reskill our incumbent workforce. This is a key priority in a fast-moving and very dynamic industry, and it's occurring throughout our value chain. And the fourth industry trend is related to industry engagement with STEM and support for STEM education across all education levels. There's a major emphasis happening across work-based learning, whether that's internships or co-ops. But certainly, companies are working hard with students, teachers, and classrooms to inform career pathways and student connections at all levels. We okay on the deck? As we go to the next slide, we're going to step through each of these individually and in turn. The top line industry trends I mentioned, we'll show you in a moment, but certainly we're seeing a leveling off in overall employment growth in 2024. This is quite different than we've seen in the prior years. We'll show you a graphic on that. But certainly, again, we got to emphasize the mixed performance, and we'll take a look at a couple of the sectors that are both growing as well as those which have seen some minor contractions. Likewise, industry job postings, another important indicator of demand, have declined since their peak in 2022. And companies are indicating us through the survey, we're still hiring, but indications are at lower volumes. So certainly we have a different situation than we've seen even 2 years ago when we prepared this report. Different dynamics and certainly a different context of labor demand. We've mentioned, some of these macroeconomic forces, geopolitical challenges. I'd say there's a general sense and sort of pervasive sense of uncertainty in the industry, which is certainly impacting hiring. But you see inflation here mentioned quite often, global uncertainties related to new tariffs on trade, related to research grants and other funding cuts, geopolitical challenges, difficulties obtaining visas for foreign researchers. Some of those have been elevated to the forefront in these inputs. And certainly to the benefit of employers, I guess, some silver lining around this has been lower turnover and greater talent retention, which certainly has implications as well. Go to the next slide. So staying with theme one and sort of this macro picture and setting the context, after really steady and consistent growth, we've been averaging net job growth in the industry over 4% for several years. In 2023 and 2024, we've seen more of a leveling off that we've mentioned. But on the right side, you see the different subsectors of the life sciences. So this mixed picture where segments like medical device production, research testing and medical labs, and the ag biosciences have seen some net job declines over the latest year. But segments like pharmaceuticals and bioscience-related distribution have been increasing jobs on net. So it can be complicated to sort of unpack that. And I think importantly, as we've seen this leveling off, and I will refer you to the report for this, a lot of companies, particularly in the biopharmaceuticals, are announcing significant investments. So whether you look at existing employment projections, whether you look at the announced investments totaling more than $200 billion over a number of biopharma companies, we do want to emphasize that the outlook for the industry certainly remains strong, and that's important context. Next slide. So our job postings data reinforce this, and I think it's important to point out here that job postings offer up insights into the volumes and the high volumes of churn that we have in the industry. While you see in the prior slide our sort of net growth as an industry and our employment position, these data really speak to the underlying churn that's happening every day that you all live. And that's certainly with respect to both replacement needs, if somebody's leaving the industry, if somebody's retiring, as well as needs driven by growth. So we peaked in 2022, and I think there's also some value in pointing you to the appendix to this report, because we do unpack this, and there's a similar situation for each subsector. But suffice it to say, again, a very different picture versus 2 years ago when we were talking about hiring bonuses, when we were talking about expanding compensation packages, when we were talking about this literal sort of war for talent. We are talking about a different situation in this report. Next slide. So what are the implications of these dynamics? Certainly hearing from companies and our industry executives that we're focusing more on critical roles, maybe not hiring in large volumes, but an emphasis on strategic hires. Because of the costs and compensation concerns that some industry executives cite related to FTEs, we're utilizing contractors and consultants more. We were hearing that as a theme. Also, pairing this context with targeted cost reduction, investing in automation investments to enhance the productivity of our existing workforce. And certainly this real theme and emphasis, which actually became its own theme, but investing more in our existing incumbent workforce in terms of upskilling, reskilling, this real emphasis around skills-based training. Less challenging to hire for key roles. I think, again, that's some of the silver lining here. When we unpacked the information from the hiring survey, we're still seeing challenges with regulatory affairs, computational biology, data sciences, research scientists, engineering. But if you look at the share of companies that are telling us that this is very difficult to hire for these positions, it's much lower than in the prior survey effort. So again, the long-term outlook remains positive, but these are some of the challenges and implications. We'll go to our next trend. Certainly thematically and almost really overwhelmingly, we were hearing as we ask about emerging technologies and technology areas that have implications for talent and skill needs and demands. AI and automation and broader digital transformation of our manufacturing and business operations, just pervasive as key themes. I will say, in many respects, our large and leading companies are more widely integrating. There's a depth of integration that we see as we look at responses from those companies. But still, our small and mid-sized companies are wrestling with this. They're integrating tools, capabilities, and certainly all with implications for talent in these technology areas. Next slide. I know it's hard to read this. Again, I'll put a plug in for taking a look at the report. But whether you're looking at innovation-centric aspects of our work in this industry or business and operational functions, there's a rich set of case studies, a rich set of use cases, ways we're hearing from executives and others in the industry in terms of how we're leveraging AI, how we're implementing advanced automation. Some of these are taking the form of areas like customer support, where we're enhancing customer interaction and support using AI-driven interfaces, supply chain and logistics optimization, whether that's optimizing processes, forecasting demand, managing inventories, sort of the seamless flow of goods, in addition to more of what we've heard traditionally from the industry in terms of applications in drug discovery and development, through better target identification, predictive analytics around clinical trials, and speeding up our time to market. So again, take a look at the report, look through some of these use cases. I hope they ring true for you, your organizations, the companies you work closely with. But we also profile how that's changing jobs and demand for jobs. And so there's a section in the report that talks about what we're hearing from executives in terms of the increase in demand for AI and machine learning specialists, data scientists, and analysts. These are areas in which we've been seeing demand increase and rise steadily for years, but also areas of hybrid skill needs. You know, the need for R&D scientists, senior scientists with AI skills, digital skills, enhanced digital literacy, and there's a lot of fierce competition for those roles. So take a look at the report there. The next slide shows where we unpack some of the specialized skills related to AI and data sciences roles in the life sciences. So lots of software, sort of machine learning training models unpacked here, in addition to more platform areas like data sciences, machine learning, but the depth is increasingly becoming important. And these are areas in which you're increasingly seeing mentioned in job postings, emphasized in job postings. I will wrap up this theme with saying there's some concern around the potential to shed jobs or replace jobs with AI integration. But I'll say there's more emphasis we heard on the change that it's changing the nature of roles, that this is a complementary technology, and we're currently working to integrate these technologies alongside our existing team members. Next slide. So in terms of our third trend, this real focus on skills-based training and a need for skills training, sort of ongoing context. There's really a confluence of factors or trends here that are contributing to this emphasis. It's certainly the lower turnover and higher retention we're seeing, where companies are very interested in investing in their current incumbent workforces in this context. But it's also these drivers you see here on screen in terms of our ever-evolving technology needs, demands from regulatory changes and shifts, from our manufacturing automation and digital integration and sort of this continued spirit of Industry 4.0, AI implementation and adoption, need for skills around data governance, machine learning, again, digital literacy, and leveraging data capture and advanced analytics remains important. Data-driven decision-making, predictive capabilities, enhancing our productivity around data, insights, and intel. And this has implications. Our companies are telling us that whether it's internal training, in-house training investments, or external, with many of our academic partners, there's a need for more flexible and targeted and focused credentials, micro-credentials, certificates, badges, stackable credentials, all the context I'm sure you all are hearing about. But overlaying this is this really important need for industry recognized credentials. We need to agree as an industry, certainly on what's important, where we can standardize credentialing. And again, our companies are looking for ways to do this fast and in flexible manner. Next slide, please. We're emphasizing as companies in terms of what we're hearing, and this is a continuation of trends we've seen in the last couple of reports, skills and competencies, both for our entry-level technician and production hires. When you look at the left side of this graphic, these are the shares of employers that cite these as very important for their entry-level technician and production hires. They want to be able to see and understand demonstrated competencies and skill, and prioritize to a great degree prior work experience in a related field. Certainly our degrees and credentials remain important, but this is part of this broader emphasis on demonstrated skills, competencies, and the ability to come into an organization and understand what you know and you can do in a lab, in a production area, et cetera. On the right side, we've highlighted some hot skills areas across each of our major life sciences subsectors. So just kind of want to tease this more than anything to say, as you have interest in biopharma, in medical devices or the med tech space, ag bio, there are different contents or contexts for skill areas in terms of what we're seeing rising up over the last few years in job postings. So again, a lot of familiar themes there around data emphasis, data sciences, AI, as well as continued emphasis you've seen over the years in GMP, other aspects. Next slide. So our fourth trend is really around industry engaging with students, with teachers, with classrooms, with work-based learning around STEM education initiatives, STEM engagement, and with an emphasis on work-based learning. So this first slide really talks about the surge that we've seen in this. Companies are targeting US students for real meaningful engagements. And from the prior effort 2 years ago, we're seeing a 2 to 4x increase in the engagement of companies in classrooms, student mentorships, and other initiatives. And as you go to the next slide, you'll see some of these shares. These are the shares of companies surveyed telling us that they have initiatives in place seeking to develop a robust STEM talent pipeline. You can see it here presented across all education levels. And really some exciting and impressive increases, really significant as you look across all three areas. As you get to the older age groups, internships have become incredibly important. We've seen that those shares rise significantly. And by the time you're at the community college level, you're at the four-year college or university level, you're talking about two and three companies, or even as close to 8 and 10 companies hiring students for internships. We've seen classroom engagements. This can be guest lecturers, career days, science fairs, after-school programming, increase among K to 8 students from 12% in the prior survey to 56% now. Likewise, at high school levels from 16% to almost 50%. So really exciting. I think we were all excited to see this level of engagement. We know the prior data could have been impacted by the years after the COVID pandemic, and maybe people had backed off some of these types of engagements, but really seeing a big push. And on the work-based learning front, it's not only internships, but the interviews really pointed to significant engagement with co-ops. So co-op programming and whatnot. So exciting to see. So that wraps up the 4 trends. Just 2 more slides here. I just want to point out and highlight so many important initiatives represented by folks on this call, represented by partners of LSWC, who are really the folks working hard to make a difference in several of these spaces. So just want to put a quick spotlight on some of the call outs and highlights we have in the report. Take a look through, take a read through efforts spanning micro-credentialing and our Manufacturing USA partners, to strategic outlooks and recommendations from the National Security Commission on Emerging Biotechnology in their important report. We've had certainly with Carla and mentioning Apprenti and our life sciences technician registered apprenticeship programs. And then in that last section on STEM education, some really exciting and fun and creative initiatives that are engaging students. So while the report really has a focus on talent demand, a lot of the voice of the industry, we can't forget everybody working to move the needle here, and certainly including Innovate Bio. So our last slide, just to put a plug in for this, I know many of you represent educational institutions, academic partners. We always include a section to help identify high demand occupations in the life sciences, where we're pulling together intelligence from the industry staffing patterns, looking at what's occupations and roles have been growing within the industry rapidly in recent years. We also look at industry job postings activity and where we're seeing a ramp up in that in recent years, and certainly on industry hiring expectations from our industry survey, where the outlook is strong. So in this table, a shaded circle just represents more volume of postings or a higher growth rate, more significant level of activity. But on the left, you can see where we land in terms of identifying high demand, high priority roles and occupations for the industry. Certainly encourage you all to dig into that section. It's really got a lot of rich content and can be a helpful guide as you think about where our priorities need to be in education and training and career awareness going forward. So thanks very much.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. And you please look at the Q&A. There's a couple of questions, comments there. If you can go ahead and address them in the response, and then if we have time again at the end, we can open up for more questions. But again, thank you. I think you all can see why we love having Techonomy Partners as our partner on the report. We also want to give a very special shout of gratitude out to Innovate Bio, whose NSF funding over the last 3 reports enabled us to bring in Techonomy Partners, which is significant, and then, but also to offer data collection assistance to participants, which has really helped to bolster the robustness of the data and the report analysis. and importantly, also allowed us to produce workforce snapshots for the participating states in Puerto Rico, which they in turn can use with academic partners, with legislators, and other stakeholders in their respective locales. As Lisa noted, if any of you don't know, Innovate Bio is the NSF-supported National Biotechnology Education Center, which coordinates a really huge network of community college biotechnology, advanced technical education, and career pathway programs. It's important to note that they're linking with the high schools, with four-year programs and beyond. And all of these programs are producing critical talent for the industry. So we're very pleased to have, you've seen Linnea chatting in the Q&A, Innovate Bio's executive director and several members of the leadership team are with us today. So again, a big thanks to Innovate Bio for being such an invaluable partner, and one that we will obviously continue to work with at LSWC. Next slide. And so we are thrilled to announce today our new co-production partner for the 2027 report. Go ahead. The National Institute for Innovation in Manufacturing Biopharmaceuticals, which you all know as NIMBLE. There are a number of reasons why we're excited about this new partnership. One being that NIMBLE's John Balchunas is as eager as we are to deepen our reach into the various subsectors of the industry. As Ryan noted, while we include data for all of the industry's major subsectors in the report, our interviews and hiring surveys tend to lean more heavily on biopharma. And so NIMBLE is very supportive of our efforts to bring in more representation from sectors like medtech, industrial, biotech. We're already working very closely with AdvaMed to deepen our reach to medtech employers, and plan to hope to do the same with Biomade for industrial biotech employers. I think as Lisa mentioned, all of these sectors are represented in our industry association membership. So we want to be really a broad umbrella here. NIMBLE also wants, as we do, to continue collaborating closely with the Innovate Bio network of community college and high schools, but also to pull in additional academic partners to make sure that we are highlighting workforce talent needs and opportunities at all points and junctures of the career pathway. And then finally, and I think this is especially important, we both plan to do even more in amplifying the findings of the 2025 report and in the lead up to the 2027 report. So we're planning to dig deeper into some of the report's themes that Ryan just highlighted, and obviously the implications for talent, for instance, in the roundtables and conference panels, et cetera, maybe some blogs, et cetera. But then we also plan to begin strategizing our outreach for the 2027 report to identify major themes, some of the call outs in a much sooner and a greater lead up to it. So we're going to be putting together a workforce trends report team to begin our work with NIMBLE and other key partners for the 2027 report. So in short, we really are looking forward to this new partnership over the next couple of years. And with that, I will turn it over to Maria to talk specifically about how to engage with LSWC.
Thanks, Lori. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Maria Thacker. I'm President and CEO at Georgia Life Sciences, but I'm also a co-founder of the Collaborative and previously CSBI. Really excited to be here and so excited about the partnership with NIMBLE as we move forward to dive deeper into the data that we need. So thank you to that team and to Lori and Lisa for navigating that. So I'm going to close this out with some more about the collaborative and how you can engage. So I want to touch really on what makes us unique and how we're filling a gap and why we hope to be of value to you. So first, I want to point out our attributes. We are a bottom-up grassroots initiative that has come together over many years to evolve into what is now the collaborative. And we want to serve as a forum to address evolving workforce challenges, share best practices, inform workforce development policy for anyone that may need the expertise, and of course, convene and facilitate important stakeholders to address workforce issues. and partnerships, and really help strengthen states and regions in order to diversify their funding, whether it's federal grants, state grants, or philanthropic ones. Our big differentiator is really our root composition. We're a network of industry associations and institutes from across the country in Puerto Rico, who are in turn conduits of larger networks of industry and academic members and partners. And those networks are broad. It encompasses all areas of life sciences, not just biotech and pharma. And through this, we have really strong roots in bio, as Lori mentioned earlier, but we really do represent all areas of the industry, from device to industrial, food, pharma, and more. And we really intend to maintain and continue to build our broad industry focus as we move forward. And so we welcome any introductions you may have for us. In our states and Puerto Rico, we represent all subsectors, and we really want to deepen that engagement and continue, of course, to work with bio, but additionally continuing to strengthen our partnership with AdvaMed and BioMate, who we've been working with to inform the collaboratives over the last year. And then finally, our big differentiator is our focus on the full talent pipeline, not just one piece of it, from exposing and getting kids excited to developing students, to recruiting and advancing and retaining talent in the workforce. Our vision, I'll let you read through this, but we really bring an opportunity to augment our vision is to augment our already long established alliance of industry associations, institutes, and other stakeholders, but continue to build on that as well. We want to be a place to elevate workforce policy and funding, as I mentioned earlier, and share and replicate best practices and strategies. We want to learn from one another. A lot of things are done in silos. When we find out, we want to be able to say, hey, this is so exciting. Why didn't I know they were doing this in South Carolina or Maine or Washington? We want to share those stories. And then and that builds into the provide visibility for successful programs and organizations and regions. So as you become a partner, and we'll share this in a minute, there are opportunities to raise and elevate the programs you might be doing and want to share with the broader community. And then, of course, continue to augment data-driven solutions to the evolving workforce challenges that Ryan already outlined in the industry, and translate that, of course, into exciting careers for individuals. So don't feel you need to read through this slide. We can always share this afterwards. We want to share a variety of ways you can become a collaborator with us. So here are a few different levels for how you can connect with the collaborative. If you are an affiliate, it's a state level nonprofit, again at a more small state level, and then education and government organizations. For our corporate partners, I invite you to reach out to us. We have a different matrix that we can share with you, and we'd really love to understand from you how you want to plug in. Partner levels, I want to point out with this is a number of benefits, and you get all this at no charge. There's no dollars, and we expect that many of you will join us and opt in just to become a partner so you can stay informed and share your stories. And then there's additional opportunities for greater visibility at the connect and the investor level. We expect this to grow over time and more people to plug in. And we appreciate, I do want to point out that, we appreciate your patience and grace. We are in startup mode. This is volunteer driven by Lisa, Lori, and myself, and with a lot of support from an outstanding board, many of whom are on the call today. But, please allow us some time to get back to you, because we do have a day job too. But would love for you to plug in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop into the chat in a minute the MOU, so you can potentially just sign your organization up now, or share it with your partner. I'll also note that after this session, I will be taking the recording and be sharing it with those who attended or registered. And we will also include in that follow-up and thank you a link to the MOU. And then finally, let's see here, we are asking interested nonprofit education and government organizations who really want to be a part of the collaborative to sign this simple MOU. We realize it may not be possible for some government entities, but this is a non-binding document that asks you to identify how you want your organization listed and what level you wish to join at, and also shares the mutual commitments, such as we ask that our partners list the collaborative on their website and share appropriate events and resources when possible. For most of you, getting involved is as simple as just signing the MOU, and the MOU is in many respects, so we all know who's doing what, and so we as a small team of volunteers can track what's going on. So as we transition into the Q&A, and I do think we have a little bit of time for that, And at the very end, I'll share the results of the poll, maybe in the last few minutes so people have time to see it. I just want to thank my colleagues on the call for joining us today. We really appreciate your engagement, your involvement, and any way that you want to continue to participate, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and I'll drop that MOU link and our general contact email into the chat in just a moment. So with that, I'll turn it back over to anybody that might have questions. And ladies, I'm going to ask either you or Lori, Lisa, to help facilitate this because I've got way too many things open as I'm navigating chat and everything. Thank you.
I'll point out one, Ryan, I don't know if you saw it, and if you need a little time to dig into this, we had a question regarding employment opportunities for undergraduates with a BA versus those with master's or PhD. I know we pull out the two-year colleges a little bit, but anything you can say about
Yeah,
that?
I did just post a response. I had to take a look at our job postings data. I'll be honest, it can be a little bit difficult to ferret out. Some job postings don't mention explicit education levels or requirements. Others might say, oh, a bachelor's or higher, or a bachelor's is okay, but a master's is preferred. But I just took a look, and as we look at industry job postings for the life sciences, 47% mention bachelor's as a requirement, 18% note master's degree, and 9% explicitly mention a PhD. So I think those shares make sense generally. Interested in people's thoughts, but that's one way to get at it.
Great, thank you. Sorry, couldn't get my mouse to work. Looks like Carla. Carla, you want to just ask your question to Ryan? I see it in the chat.
Oh, I see.
Sorry, you're on mute.
I'll read it really quick. Can you offer the news about increased corporate engagement with K6 through 16 students is wonderful and surprising. Can you offer any additional thoughts on what might have changed over the past 2 years?
Yeah, great question, Carla. And we thought about this a bit as a group. I don't know that I have the answers explicitly, but I think in part, we're finding that, and we do some work with pharma around this, employers are very much concerned about their future talent pipelines, whether it's in their region or on a national scale. So to their credit, at least, we tend to see this from large and leading life sciences companies. They're engaging. They're looking at ways to boost career awareness, show the opportunities for careers in this exciting field that really makes a difference. I think communicating the value proposition. Oftentimes, I hear from employers that, well, a lot of students know about healthcare and how to help people in the clinic, but they're not aware of what we're doing at our firm down the street that's working on a new therapeutic to meet a real need for sick patients. Might not be aware of the latest exciting technology that goes into a medical device for patient monitoring. So I think it's happening at various levels and in different ways, and it's really exciting. I do think there might have been a bit of a COVID effect when we were polling people in 2023. We were asking about 21 and 22. So there may have been some continued sort of limitation on things like classroom engagement or bringing students in for company tours. I think that could be part of it, but the rise that we saw and the increase in the K to 16 students was really significant and impressive. And I think it speaks to the priorities and the challenges companies have around STEM talent and getting the right STEM talent. And it's a competitiveness situation as well as we look to international competitiveness of the United States versus other countries.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just add in, and the competition with tech. I mean, similarly, anecdotally, every workforce conversation that I hear with industry is that we've got to start earlier. We've got to do more to really bolster interest and excitement for the talent, for careers in life sciences and expose more students. So it's really, I loved this finding because I think it's resonates as the trends often do with what we're hearing out there, and I think it's great news for our partners. So
I think we've answered 2 questions on the open Q&A. Is that accurate? So there are
yeah.
4-year students educated by 2-year programs. Interesting. That is a good point. Thanks, Linnea. And then FYI, you should also include 2-year students. 50% of the students in community college biotech programs have a 4-year degree. It's a great point. Thanks, Linnea. Nick, I do see your question. I don't think we're the audience to provide that answer in this forum. I'm happy to, provide you some other links. There is some data. I actually want to say a recent report came out of Deloitte last week to provide recent data on investments and venture capital in the sector. And I'll try and dig that up before we close this out. So just because we're almost out of time, I'm going to hit share results on the poll and then put up the last slide where you can find us information. So here are the results of the poll. Overwhelmingly, it looks like a community forum on the collaborative would be valuable and potentially be utilized. So we'll continue to explore that. A resources page, same, overwhelmingly supportive of that. So that is something we can continue to start to develop. And one of the asks to our partners in particular is let us know what kind of a resource that we may not be aware of. And then finally, I will say it looks like all the topics were pretty popular, with the one coming out on top. There was a tie for upskilling the incumbent workforce for biomanufacturing and medtech. And then the second one that tied with that being partnering with community colleges to build the technician pipeline. So I'd love to say this is surprising, but I think, this goes to show that every region has an interest in a variety of different ways on how to potentially support their thriving ecosystem around workforce needs. So thank you all again. I will try and figure out how to also pull these data just to include as part of the sharing. This is very informative for myself, the team, the board, and others who are getting involved for our roundtable planning and program planning. So with that, Lori or Lisa, any last comments while I share this last slide with our QR code, which will direct you to our website and the Get Involved page. At the bottom of the Get Involved page, you can sign up for our newsletter, our email. I can comfortably say that we don't email frequently, but we will email you when it's important. So please get involved as best you can. And then finally, because I did also promise that, let me drop the jot form into the chat or the MOU. But with that, Lawyer Lisa, can I turn it over to you to close us out?
I just want to emphasize the grassroots aspect of this. We really, as CSBI, we were really a grounds up, hearing from our members, our state associations. We don't want to be dictating what we think you all should be talking about. We really, the idea of the collaborative is to have ways, and as you saw in the sign up, ways to engage and really bring visibility to your programs, bring your thoughts on what we ought to be talking about with various stakeholders across the country. So and then just the beg your patience as our startup mode and limited resources. But yeah, thanks for joining us.
Couldn't have said it better. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day and a great weekend. We appreciate the support.